Okay, first violins, I'm playing the top voice. This is measure 5. 120 beats per minute. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Up bow. Maya's singing along. 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. First violin, bottom part, starting at measure 5. 1, 2, 3. Key change, careful. 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, first violins, I'm going to go over a couple of treble spots. First of all, measure 9. Make sure you know where the beat is. If you look at your music, look at the sets of 16th notes. 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a. You can see each beat laid out across the measures. Now, I always like to show myself where the beat is, maybe by putting a slice mark through beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, and beat 4. So the top voice plays 1E and a 2, 3E and a 4. And the bottom voice plays 1, 2E and a 3, 4E and a. Notice that the top voice is always going down bow on the 16th notes. And the bottom voice is always going up bow on the 16th notes. Make sure that you see how your part fits together and where your notes are. Here's measure 9, more slowly. This is first the top voice. that should be very ringy, where it rings in tune. This should just make your violin go crazy with intonation ringing, because it's A and E. Violins like those notes. Here's the bottom voice. So you start with a down bow on the A string, and then you have your rolling pattern of 3 E, A, E. And then you have to tip your bow back to grab the A again. Bottom voice players, you actually have more work to do because you have to do a little more back and forth. The bottom voice, I think a good practice pattern would be to play down bow A, and then A, E. So just, and then you might want to add play around with it, finding different practice patterns just to get that your bow is in control and nice and flexible so that you can do this smoothly. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to play this in a clean way at our performance tempo of 120. Measure 13. This is the melody. A few things are important for you here. I'm going to say 3 things of value. I want you to make sure you're following the bowings, especially when they have the up bow written in parentheses. That's important because it means you're using enough bow, and it will also make our bowings work out so that we match and we have the right articulation. The second thing I want you to watch out for is the rhythm of 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 1. And I want you to put that last 16th note, the 2E and a, I want you to put that as late as you possibly can. So it more sounds like 1, a 3, a 1, almost like ta-da. And that will give it a really crisp, rhythmic sound. The third thing I want you to watch out for is to make sure that those 4th finger E's, if you're playing the bottom voice, and also just for everybody in measure 14, that your open hand is far enough to make sure that your 4th finger E's are perfectly in tune, nice and powerful. If you are going to be really brave and also very precise, and you really want to try those high octave notes, you've got to really practice that to make sure that you nail it every time. This is measure 13. 2, 3, down and up, go. Measure 29, be sure you notice the key change, F sharp, C sharp, and even G sharp. So when you have a G on the D string, that's a raised 3rd finger. Here's measure 30 where we come in. It's an up bow and we have the melody. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. Same thing again at measure 34, 2, 3, 4, rest. Okay, now whenever you have this kind of pattern with the 8th notes that are divided like that and you're playing doubles, make sure that you have your left hand in control so that your fingers are controlled and you just kind of keep moving back and forth with your bow between the patterns, but you want to make sure that your left hand knows what it's doing first. So in the first pattern, in measure 36, you have C sharp and you have G sharp. And you need to tune those. You can listen carefully. Adjust your fingers up and down to make sure that you've got it precise. And once your hand is ready, then your bow can play. The next pattern like that we have is measure 29, where you have an F sharp and a C sharp. Adjust your fingers until you play it in tune. So then you take your bow back and forth. Make sure you're accenting beat 1 and 3. Then you just add your third finger to the A string. Then you raise your third finger for D sharp. Do you hear the chord changing? Now your third finger is going to go back down. And on the E string, 2, G sharp. And this should really ring your third finger on the E string. Fourth finger. Pull your first finger back. Or if you're playing the bottom voice, measure 37. Another rhythm that should be very precise. Like I said before, push those 16th notes to the very edge of the end of beat 2 so that they sound like ta-ta-da. This is measure 37. One more time, this time I'll play the bottom voice. 37, 2, ready. To measure 47, the great big ending, and this time I'll play the bottom voice. 1, 2, 47.